August 3rd, 1942. OKH headquarters, Zossen, Germany. The map room smells of tobacco smoke and confidence. Polished boots echo across the floor as senior German officers cluster around a long table. Eastern Front maps are spread flat, corners held down by brass weights. Red and blue pins bristle like thorns across the Soviet Union. A general taps the map with a riding crop. Tanks, he says. Men, maneuver, that decides wars. There is laughter low, knowing, dismissive. Someone mentions the Americans. More laughter. They build trucks, another officer scoffs. Let them drive to victory. You can almost feel the certainty in the room. This is an army raised on speed, precision, and decisive blows. Blitzkrieg shattered Poland. Blitzkrieg crushed France. Blitzkrieg drove deep into Russia. Wars are won at the front. Everyone here knows that. What none of them can yet see, what they are actively mocking, is that wars are sustained somewhere else entirely. Thousands of miles away, on a dock in New Jersey, a truck rolls off a ship. It isn't impressive. No armor. No gun. No heroic silhouette. Just steel, rubber, canvas, and an engine built to run, and run, and run. The Americans don't cheer when it arrives. They check paperwork. The sergeant signs a form. A driver climbs in. The truck starts on the first try. And then it joins a line so long it stretches beyond sight. Back in Germany, logistics is a supporting actor. Important, but never glamorous. Rail lines, horse-drawn wagons, captured fuel depots. Enough to keep the spear moving forward. Until it isn't. On the Eastern Front, German divisions pause not because the enemy stops them, but because fuel doesn't arrive. Ammunition runs low, spare parts are missing, horses die in the cold, trucks too few, too fragile break down on mud-choked roads. The men at the front don't know why. They just know they're waiting. Waiting while the enemy reorganizes. Waiting while winter closes in. Waiting while opportunity slips away. Meanwhile, American factories don't wait. They build. Not just tanks. Not just aircraft. They build systems. Assembly lines churn out standardized trucks by the tens of thousands. Same parts, same manuals, same procedures. A broken axle in North Africa can be fixed with a part shipped from Ohio. You can almost hear the difference. German engines roar forward, then fall silent. American engines hum, and keep humming. In 1942, German intelligence officers study American production figures. They don't believe them. The numbers are too large. The assumptions too foreign. An army that relies on trucks, they insist, is soft, vulnerable, inefficient. Real soldiers ride tanks. Real armies take ground. But the Americans are not building an army to take ground. They are building one to never stop moving. In North Africa, the lesson begins quietly. British and American units retreat and then return. Again and again. Their lines stretch, but they don't snap. Fuel appears where it shouldn't. Ammunition flows across deserts that should be impassable. German commanders win battles and lose time. Time to refuel. Time to repair. Time to reorganize. The Allies use that time to move everything forward. Trucks arrive first. Fuel follows. Men come last. The order matters. Every American unit is wrapped in supply. Every mile forward is measured not just in territory, but in tonnage, food, fuel, spare parts, medical kits, tires. So many tires. German generals still laugh. They call it wasteful, inelegant, American excess. What they don't understand is that excess is not inefficiency. It is insurance. When a bridge is destroyed, the Americans don't stop. They reroute. When a depot is bombed, another opens. When a truck breaks down, 3 more replace it. The front becomes elastic, able to stretch without breaking. By 1943, the laughter starts to fade. German field reports change tone. Words like unexpected resupply appear. Enemy operational tempo unusually high. American units able to resume offensive rapidly. Still, the assumption remains. Tanks decide wars. Until one night in Tunisia, a German battalion captures an Allied position. They expect to exploit the breakthrough at dawn. Dawn comes. The Americans are gone. Not retreating. Relocated. Supplies have already moved. Units have already repositioned. Fresh fuel has already arrived. The breakthrough dissolves into nothing. And somewhere in the back of a German staff officer's mind, a question begins to form: uncomfortable, unwelcome, dangerous. What if wars aren't decided by who hits harder, but by who can keep hitting longer? The answer is coming. On roads across Europe, across oceans, across continents. On 6 wheels, carrying everything that actually wins wars. The first warning signs are subtle. Too subtle to matter, at least at first. In North Africa, German officers begin noticing something strange after successful engagements. They destroy Allied armor, they force withdrawals, they seize ground. And yet the enemy keeps coming back. Faster than expected. After a hard-fought clash near Kasserine, a German regimental commander studies reconnaissance reports in disbelief. The Americans should still be reorganizing, refitting, mourning losses. Instead, fresh units are already appearing on the horizon. Fuel trucks, ammunition convoys, medical vehicles, whole columns moving with mechanical regularity. You can almost feel the irritation setting in. This isn't how war is supposed to work. German doctrine is built on decisive moments. Break the enemy, exploit the gap, force collapse. But collapse never comes. The Americans bend, absorb the blow, then straighten again. Behind German lines. The reason is painfully clear but ignored. Logistics. Germany fights a continental war with a system, still anchored in the 19th century. Railroads are king. Horses fill the gaps. Trucks exist, but not enough of them, and not standardized. Every model is different. Every spare part a scavenger hunt. Fuel is a constant anxiety. An armored division is only as powerful as its last liter of petrol. When it runs out, tanks become immobile steel bunkers. Guns fall silent. Initiative dies. German generals understand tactics brilliantly. They underestimate endurance completely. Across the Atlantic, the United States is fighting a different kind of war. Not for territory, but for throughput. American planners don't ask, how do we win the next battle? They ask, how do we make sure the next 1,000 battles are possible? Factories are reorganized not for elegance, but for scale. Trucks roll off assembly lines by the tens of thousands, simple, rugged, identical. Drivers are trained quickly. Maintenance is simplified. Manuals are standardized. Break apart. Replace it. Lose a truck? Send 3 more. There is no romance in it. Only momentum. German intelligence officers receive reports about American truck production. They skim them. Dismiss them. A truck, after all, doesn't capture cities. It doesn't encircle armies. It doesn't inspire fear. But trucks do something far more dangerous. They erase pauses. In Russia, German offensives slow because supply columns can't keep up. In France in 1940, the gamble works barely. Captured fuel and intact infrastructure save the day. Against the Americans, there will be no such luck. Because the Americans bring their infrastructure with them. Ports become arteries. Roads become lifelines. Supply dumps appear almost overnight. Entire armies are wrapped in a cocoon of fuel, food, and spare parts. You can almost hear the difference at the front. German units pause to refuel. American units refuel while moving. German commanders plan operations around supply limits. American commanders plan supply around operations. The distinction is fatal. By 1943, this blind spot becomes impossible to ignore. German officers on the ground report that American units recover unnaturally fast. That losses which should cripple formations barely slow them. The answer is always the same. Trucks. Endless trucks. They carry fuel forward so tanks can keep moving. They bring ammunition so artillery never goes silent. They evacuate wounded quickly, preserving manpower. They deliver food so morale doesn't rot from the inside. War, the Americans understand, is not just about destruction. It's about replacement. Germany can fight brilliantly for weeks. America can fight adequately forever. And slowly, painfully, German generals begin to realize they are fighting an enemy who does not need to win decisively, only continuously. The war is no longer about breakthroughs. It is about pace. And Germany is already falling behind. Italy, late 1943. Rain turns the mountain roads into rivers of mud, tracks tear into soft ground. Vehicles slide, stall, grind to a halt. German units dig in on high ground confident. This terrain favors defense, narrow passes, steep ridges, perfect kill zones. The Americans advance anyway. Not fast. Not elegantly. Relentlessly. A German artillery officer watches through binoculars as Allied units regroup after being pushed back. He expects the usual pause, time to breathe, time to rearm, time for the enemy to feel the weight of failure. Instead, trucks appear. One after another, headlights dimmed, canvas covered, tires churning through mud that should be impassable. They don't stop. They don't wait for roads to improve. They create roads. You can almost feel the shift happening here, not dramatic, not cinematic, but decisive. This is not maneuver warfare. This is pressure. American engineers throw down steel matting, fill craters, build bridges in hours, not days. As soon as a road exists, trucks flow across it. Fuel first, ammunition next, food after that. Men last. German units counterattack and succeed tactically. They knock out forward elements, force temporary withdrawals. But the Americans return before the Germans can even reposition. The Germans are burning fuel to fight. The Americans are spending fuel to exist. That difference changes everything. In German doctrine, logistics serves the front. In American practice, the front serves logistics. Operations are shaped to ensure supply never stops flowing. A German battalion may win a firefight. An American convoy wins the day. The trucks don't look heroic. They aren't photographed for propaganda. They don't earn medals. But they are everywhere. They haul artillery shells up slopes horses could never climb. They drag fuel forward to units that should have stalled. They evacuate wounded so manpower losses don't accumulate. German officers begin to complain, not about enemy fire, but about enemy persistence. They do not stop, one report notes, even when it makes no sense. It makes perfect sense if you understand the road. Every mile the Americans advance is measured not just in distance, but in capacity. Can trucks move here? Can they turn around? Can they flow both directions without congestion? If the answer is yes, the front moves forward. If the answer is no, engineers fix the answer. Germany has no equivalent system. Railheads sit far behind the front. Horses die. Fuel shortages grow chronic. Every offensive is constrained by what can be delivered and what cannot. The Americans don't ask if a push is possible. They ask how many trucks it will take. And the answer is almost always more. By the time Rome falls, German commanders are exhausted, not just physically, but conceptually. They are fighting an enemy that refuses to behave according to traditional limits. The Americans don't pause to reorganize. They reorganize while moving. And somewhere on these muddy Italian roads, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. The war is not being decided by tanks or tactics. It is being decided by who owns the roads. And right now, the roads belong to the trucks. France, summer 1944. The breakout comes suddenly. After weeks of grinding combat in Normandy, American units punch through German lines. For a moment it looks like every other breakthrough the Germans have seen before. Dangerous, yes, but manageable. Then the Americans do something unfamiliar. They do not stop. German commanders expect the pause. They always do. Fuel must be brought up. Units must realign. Artillery must reposition. Every army needs time after a breakthrough. The Americans take that time away. Convoys begin moving almost immediately. Trucks pour through the gap while the smoke is still hanging in the air. Fuel is delivered before orders are fully written. Ammunition arrives faster than it can be fired. You can almost feel the shock spreading through German headquarters. This is not exploitation. This is acceleration. German units attempt to establish defensive lines farther back. They plan for days they do not have. Each position is overtaken not by superior tactics, but by overwhelming presence. Every road becomes a threat. Every intersection becomes a liability. American columns bypass resistance, leave it for follow-up units, and keep moving. Trucks enable this. They allow units to leapfrog, to ignore the need for captured depots, to fight without waiting. Fuel is no longer a limiting factor. It is a weapon. German armored units attempt counterattacks and succeed locally. American tanks are knocked out. Infantry is pushed back. But the pressure never lifts. Destroyed vehicles are replaced within hours. Wounded men are evacuated and substituted. Fresh units arrive before German commanders can even assess the damage. The Germans begin to understand the danger too late. They are not fighting an army. They are fighting a system. Every German retreat burns fuel they cannot replace. Every movement drains supplies they cannot replenish. Trucks, already scarce, are lost to air attacks. Rail lines are shattered. The Americans lose trucks too. They replace them by the hundreds. By August, German commanders report that the enemy's operational tempo feels impossible, not aggressive, not reckless. Endless. They try to slow it down, destroy bridges, crater roads, sabotage infrastructure. The Americans respond with engineers and more trucks. Temporary bridges appear overnight. Alternate routes are opened within hours. Dirt roads become highways under constant traffic. Speed stops being situational. It becomes permanent. German generals had once mocked American logistics as excessive, wasteful, unsoldierly. Now they understand the truth. Logistics has removed friction from the battlefield. Where German units are forced to choose between fighting and resupplying, the Americans do both at once. Movement, supply, and combat merge into a single continuous motion. This is where the war tilts decisively. Not because Germany loses the ability to fight, but because it loses the ability to recover. Every delay favors the Americans. Every pause benefits their system. Time itself becomes hostile to Germany. And as Allied forces surge toward the German border, one reality becomes unavoidable. The trucks are no longer supporting the war. They are the war. Western Germany, early 1945. The sound is constant now. Engines. Not tanks. Not aircraft. Engines. From dawn until nightfall, the roads hum with movement. Columns of American trucks roll eastward in disciplined lines, canvas sides flapping, tires worn smooth by thousands of miles. They do not slow for ruined cities. They do not pause at shattered rail yards. They simply go around. Inside German headquarters, the maps are useless. Lines drawn in the morning are obsolete by evening. Defensive positions meant to hold for days are bypassed in hours. Units are ordered to move, only to find they no longer have the fuel to do so. German generals argue not about tactics, but about time. They have none left. You can almost feel the frustration settling in. The war they trained for is gone. This is no longer about maneuver, encirclement, or decisive battle. It is about exhaustion versus momentum. And momentum belongs entirely to the Americans. German units retreat not because they are beaten in combat, but because they cannot be supplied. Fuel shortages dictate strategy. Ammunition rations determine whether a stand is even possible. Men are ordered to hold positions they cannot support, then abandon them hours later. Every retreat costs more fuel. Every retreat feeds the enemy's speed. American commanders, by contrast, think in distances trucks can cover in a day. They calculate advances in miles per gallon. They do not ask whether a town is defensible. They ask whether it is worth stopping for. Often, it is not. Trucks allow American forces to ignore the traditional rhythm of war. There is no operational pause, no long regrouping, no winter halt. Supply does not follow the front. It envelops it. German intelligence officers finally grasped the scale of what they are facing. Reports describe American forces advancing faster than expected even after heavy fighting. Losses are replaced almost immediately. Units appear where they should not be able to exist. The conclusion is unavoidable. Germany is not losing to superior tactics. It is losing to superior continuity. A German general writes bitterly that the enemy seems able to manufacture time. What he means is simpler. The Americans have removed delay from warfare. They have made movement routine and recovery automatic. In this environment, brilliance no longer matters. Only endurance does. German armored units still fight fiercely. Individual formations perform well. Local counterattacks succeed. But none of it lasts. Every success is temporary because it cannot be sustained. The Americans absorb losses, reroute supplies, and continue forward without waiting. The trucks keep coming. Fuel flows. Ammunition stacks grow. Medical units operate just behind the front, returning wounded men to duty faster than Germany can replace its losses. The Germans begin destroying their own equipment rather than let it be captured. Not out of ideology, but because they cannot move it. Tanks are abandoned not because they are damaged, but because there is no fuel left to feed them. This is the final humiliation. Machines built for speed die standing still. As Allied forces cross the Rhine, resistance stiffens in places. Desperation fuels last stands. But even desperation cannot outrun logistics. American units arrive faster than expected. Supplies arrive faster than planned. German defenses collapse not in dramatic climaxes, but in quiet withdrawals. The war ends the way it has been decided. Not with a single decisive battle, but with roads filled with trucks, stretching endlessly toward the horizon. German generals no longer mock American logistics. They no longer talk about tanks. They talk about inevitability. Because once the trucks started rolling, there was never going to be a moment when the Allies had to stop. And without that moment, Germany never had a chance to recover. The war was decided long before Berlin fell. It was decided when one side built weapons, and the other built the means to use them forever.